Adesso tocca, diciamo, alla presentazione della FIDIC. Toccherà al Presidente P.Bueno. Prego. Enrico Vink. E poi parlerà Enrico Vink, che è il Direttore Generale della Federazione.
Buongiorno per tutti. Buongiorno o buon pomeriggio. We are around 40 minutes late, so I'll try to be fast and I'll try to go to the point. Well, I'm really glad to be here. We'll go very quickly through very brief overview of what's FIDIC. Actually, Patricia Lotti already mentioned that FIDIC is the International Federation of Consulting Engineers, was founded a little bit more than 100 years ago, and actually, well, the vision of FIDIC is to enable the development of a sustainable world as the recognized global voice of the consulting engineering industry. We really represent more than 100 countries today and working in more than 60,000 consulting engineering firms. FIDIC is organized in different groups. One of them is EFCA, that represents the interest of the consulting engineering industry in Europe. But we have other groups. Well, we develop, collect business practice and try to share this information with the industry. We develop guidelines, we facilitate networking, as we do through EFCA and some other type of meetings. We say that the 3 pillars of FIDIC are quality, integrity, and sustainability. Everything is guided under those through 3 pillars. We organize annual conferences. We will give you a brief of what is our annual conference this year. We keep the agenda of the consulting engineering industry in front of the international agencies, and we have also strategic partners around the world. We have our website. We dedicate a big effort on training. And as you know, and we'll see in a minute, we dedicate a lot of time on publications. Every year we visit the World Bank, the ASEAN Development Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank, the African Development Bank, and some other institutions that at the end of the day they have very much influence in our business environment. Well, Enrico, this is your part, and I'll come back in a minute.
Thank you very much, Pablo. We thought we would divide the presentation into sections so that we can share the load a little bit. The important thing that you will have noticed so far is that the #1 topic which dictates a lot of the activity of FIDIC is to do with procurement. We all talk about procurement. This morning we've heard a lot of different discussions about procurement, particularly the procurement of professional services. So a lot of the activities we undertake relate in some way to procurement. And here, I won't speak about all of them, but you can see just an example of some of the guidelines that FIDIC has produced related to procurement in some way. And that's why we also collaborate with organisations like EFCA to bring the international perspective to the regional situation, and then in turn transpose that down into the national level. So we don't reinvent wheels. We look around the world constantly. We pick up good ideas, we bring them together and repackage them, and then give them back to the industry. We have produced also, on behalf of the industry, some what we call best practice documentation. We know that in many countries, and I believe it's the same in Italy, where you have so many different types of contracts which are being used for consultants, for contractors, it's very inefficient for the industry. FIDIC tries to encourage the use of international standards. So we have, for example, a number of very important documents for our industry. which deal with the way in which we work with other people. Some of your colleagues last night were also speaking of their own experience with joint venture agreements, sub-consultancy agreements, which are increasingly important if you want to work with other companies and put together teams for different types of projects. We've also developed here a special representative agreement. I'll speak a bit more about corruption in a minute. That's a big issue in our industry that we're also trying to tackle. For those that are reasonably more familiar with FIDIC, you will know these internationally accepted contract documents. They are used in more than 100 countries. They've been in existence for 50 years, and these are the main types of contracts currently being used. They're translated now into 28 different languages to make them easier to use at national and at international level. And this also reflects in part some of the things that were said by EFCA in terms of the different models. We try to identify trends in the construction industry to find ways in which we can better contribute to the development of those projects and how those projects are managed and the role of the engineer in each of those different particular models. These are just quickly some of the main reasons why FIDIC contracts are the international standard. There are other documents available, but FIDIC is the #1 internationally recognized contract form because it's balanced and fair and transparent. It's quite clear within those documents what the role of the engineer is, what the role of the contractor is, and what the role of the client is. So when people understand their roles, it's much easier then to manage a project and deal with issues that come along during the project. So we have a contracts committee that's constantly reviewing and updating these documents, looking for new forms of contract, and I'm pleased to be able to advise that there are some new documents currently being produced that will take into account new situations. You saw one here, for example, the design, build and operate. We're now looking at a slightly different version of that, where you run that in reverse. You have a project, you have a facility already in operation, and then you want to redesign and update that. So we try and keep up with the trends in those sorts of areas. We also were successful in receiving support from all the international financial organizations. Some of them you are familiar with here in Europe as well, such as the European Development, EBRD, Bank for Reconstruction and Development. All of those banks agreed to use the FIDIC contracts as their standard contract in a slightly specialized form, which we now call the Pink Book. And that has also been adopted by a number of bilateral agencies. So you've heard a lot of discussion today about globalization, about looking across the borders for new opportunities, the need for new skills, culture, language, understanding the international construction market. When you deal with these types of clients, the banks and the people that they lend money to in different countries, the fact that they are familiar with the same international standards makes it much easier for our industry to operate. FIDIC has been spending a lot of time recently with the World Bank, where we are one of the international advisors to assist in the development of some reforms to procurement. And the reason that we spend a lot of effort with the World Bank is that despite the fact that there are many other banks and there are also new banks being created, such as the BRIC Bank or the Asia Infrastructure Investment Bank, these will be huge financial institutions. Many parts of the world still look to the World Bank as the leader in how one is dealing with procurement and how one is financing projects. So FIDIC has been very keen to get involved. We have been consulted, and we've been giving our views on behalf of the industry on the important role of the consulting engineer in moving the role of the consulting engineer much higher up in the level of discussion, right at the concept stage. The point we're trying to make is that not only are you eventually doing the project right, but are you in fact investing in the right project in the first place? So they need professional advice with those financiers, with those clients, to understand what exactly the project is that they want to invest in, and they need your skills and experience to work through those issues, particularly if they now want to incorporate in the procurement process other issues such as dealing with corruption. How do you deal with corruption in the procurement process and in the contract? How do you deal with sustainability issues? Now, FIDIC has also developed guidelines in collaboration with EFCA on understanding what the sustainability principles are and how this industry can contribute to that, so that we can provide the options to our clients to understand what the best project might be to invest in. And of course, we also do a lot of work in capacity building. The banks, the countries that borrow money, even our own industry, we need to develop new skills, and there are ways that we can collaborate to develop those skills. So this just continues briefly because of the time limitations, just a brief overview of some of the issues that we're dealing with that the bank is trying to focus on in terms of, as Mr. van der Putten mentioned, output focus. How do we achieve the objectives that are being set? How do we get more value for those investments? So there are going to be a lot more changes made as time goes on, and it is our objective to share with you the key features of that and what the impact is likely to be on our industry. Because if the financial institutions are modifying their procurement, there will also be influence on local procurement. Now, you have procurement directives here, but in many other parts of the world, the national procurement agencies still play an important role. What impact will these international standards have on them? Our industry needs to understand and work at those issues at the national level. We've also offered the banks some of the tools that have been developed, and I'll briefly mention those in a moment, such as understanding the criteria, sustainability criteria. How can they be assessed and analysed in developing a procurement strategy, dealing with integrity issues, capacity building, and so on. There, very briefly now, very briefly, we have developed an integrity management system for this industry. Unfortunately, we have to recognise that corruption is still a major issue in this industry. We've developed some tools to help our consulting firms understand the risks that they may face and how they will deal with those risks. So it's a risk management process, and we've also managed to get support from other clients and institutions that this is a good way to reduce risk and make your services more valuable and less likely to run into problems. These are the guidelines I mentioned before on sustainability. It provides a lot of information and guidance on how the consulting industry can understand and deal with economic factors, social factors, and environmental factors in order to come up with conceptual ideas to help the client and the investor understand what the best options might be. And I'll just finish with this slide on capacity building. FIDIC has an extensive training program, both in terms of face-to-face courses. There's a lot of information available on the website, and we also increasingly offer a training in different areas, contract management, etc., through the use of the web. The latest product that has been developed and will be launched shortly is what we call the Guide to Practice. Now, this captures our collective international global practice, global understanding of what you need to know to run a consulting engineering business. So this captures all the key ingredients, not just technical related, but also related to establishing and running a consulting practice. Now, we believe that this is a must-have document for all member associations, and they can then work together to share that information with their companies. That's just an outline of some of the training modules that are available. We have more information available on those. That gives you some idea of the extensive range of types of information and training that are required in our business and that are available. The list of adjudicators, that's something that may also be of interest. FIDIC contracts typically have provisions for dealing with disputes. We are trying to clarify the role of the engineer in the contract, as opposed to when there is a dispute that is dealt with separately, and we have adjudicators which have been accredited and qualified by FIDIC, and they are available to assist on those types of contracts. A couple of new products which are emerging this year: an online training course on conditions of contract, and of course, very important, our young professionals, our future leaders. There is an online management training course also for our young professionals, which is quite extensive and is very popular as well. And just to, my apologies, some new things coming up very shortly, improvements to the website. We're planning a new service for the associations. We are planning to open a portal so that the member associations can upload and download information to share that with each other on how to run your association, how to deal with members, how to do lobbying, all the things that we need to do more effectively to run our association so that we can better service the consulting firms who are you. You're the most important. I will now pass back to the President, who will talk about some of the challenges in the industry.
Okay, I'm back. Well, he's coming back again, huh? Okay, well, oh, sorry, I'm going too fast. Well, we have been talking till now about several things, and this has been already said. The cost of the engineering services is the smallest part during the whole life cycle of the infrastructure, but is the one that has more impact on the project success. So it is very clear that we have to invest in thinking before doing. Regarding procurement, I want to bring here that FIDIC is, of course, supporting what we say QBS, means qualification-based selection or quality-based selection. This is a must in the United States. According to one of their laws, which is the Brooks Act, the Brooks Act forbids competition on price on any project that has any kind of finance by the federal government. The new procurement directive of the European Union in Article 35 forbids electronic actions competing on price only for services such as design works. As clear as that. We were talking before about competition on price. In Article 67 of the new directive that has to be transposed to the public procurement law here in Italy, as has to be transposed into Spain, Article 67 allows the selection based on quality only, without competing on price. So allows to establish a price and compete on quality only. Actually, this is what is being done in Germany. Consulting engineering services in Germany are, consulting engineering firms are selected based on quality only. You can go to the honorary of architectural and engineering services.de, and you have the definition of services there and what are the prices for each of them. So when there is a competition, you are bidding and competing on quality only. There is something I have not here, but has a lot of relation with this. I heard this morning that many times you are competing 30 companies, 35 companies, 40 companies for the same. Well, this is coming, in my opinion, from a bad translation of the European directive. Something very similar happened in my country, in Spain. The European directive allows what is called the open procedure. Oh, sorry. The open procedure. But also talks about the restricted procedure. And when you try to translate restricted into Spanish language, everybody understands that there is no free competition. It's not open for everybody. And that is a mistake. They translate it into Spanish as concurso restringido. And restringido in Spanish language means not fully open. It's a bad translation. A restricted procedure is open for everybody, just has a first step, where you select 3, 4, 5 companies. And those ones are the ones that are going to make a good technical proposal and invest in offering the best for their clients, not the 30. I remember in a similar situation to today, I was explaining to the Spanish authorities, look, this is a standard proposal for the design of a motorway in Spain. It has this number of pages. It has this average of words per page. You have here 40 bits. This is the average speed of reading of a human being. You need 1 year and a half just to read the proposals. So don't tell me that you are analyzing technically what we are offering and proposing. So this is not a problem only in Italy, it's happening in other places too. So restricted procedure means open. You first select the most appropriate companies without forcing them to spend a lot of money depends on the size of the project. Then the company could be smaller or could be whatever. After that, they will compete. And then you will be able to really analyze the quality of the proposal. If you have 30, you cannot. One of the challenges we face is that people do not understand what are the costs of consulting engineers, of consulting engineering firms. It is difficult. I mean, everybody understands that if a contractor builds twice a retaining wall, he should be paid twice. But how often are we requested to design twice a retaining wall and to be paid only once? We were mentioning before, I mean, unfortunately, regardless, we support the quality-based selection, mainly around the world. Quality cost selection is most common. But many institutions like the World Bank or the African Development Bank, the external aid of the European Union even, they say or they think they are valuing the quality of the proposal by 80%. But this is not true, because the qualifications they give to the technical proposals are very, very similar, while the scores of the economical proposals are very different. So this is not a theoretical case. You believe you are giving 20% weight to the cost, but you are really valuing the cost by 90%. So you have to be careful, and you have to, well, fair compensation of consulting engineering services nowadays around 40%. Jan van der Putten was mentioning about other types of delivery. Nowadays around 40% of infrastructure is being developed around the world in some form of design and build. So when we talk about P3s, is the way they call them in the United States for public-private partnerships, or in some way you have the design and build. And under the design and build environment, at the stage of preparing the proposals, there is a big cost. And many times this cost is being supported by our industry. So there is a big risk. We have to be fairly compensated also on those occasions. So the new misinterpretation of conflict of interest, it is funny that in some occasions and around the world, some governmental agencies, they have probably, I mean, they try to consider consulting engineering services as if they were law services, and we are completely different. And the definition of conflict of interest is really very different. On the other hand, sometimes they do not consider what should be the real and the logic role of universities, of NGOs, or publicly owned companies. I mean, companies owned by governmental agencies. Those sometimes represent unfair competition to our industry. We were mentioning before that actually is something that I wrote down here, and I was very happy to hear that Fleming already mentioned. Nowadays, engineering services are being provided by consulting engineering firms. Leonardo da Vinci is from another millennium. Engineering services are multidisciplinary, and they are provided in consulting engineering firms. Well, unbalanced client and consultant guarantees, this is something that we are facing many times. I mean, the world is very complicated. Fleming has to take a flight, so Fleming, thank you very much for being here with us. I'm sorry for talking too much, and maybe you would like to be during the debate. Well, I'm not saying anything we all not know here in this. Performance bonds. Performance bonds, they are on-demand performance bonds are essentially unfair. The role of a performance bond is to be sure that if the client has a damage, he will be compensated, and he wants to be sure about that. But on-demand performance bonds are essentially unfair, and they are many times requested to us. The client cannot be the judge if we have a conflict with him. Should be a third party, the one that decides if you are guilty or you're not guilty. Well, as a summary, consulting engineering firms should have a leading role, especially during the planning phase. We were talking about sustainability. The earlier sustainability is introduced in the development, the more efficient it is. Many times, planning is in the hands of politicians and people that is not professional. We should have a leading role on that. Operation and maintenance. In some countries, consulting engineering firms have a very important role during operation and maintenance stage. But this is not happening everywhere. And so this is selection based on quality. Well, to make our clients be aware of what are the real costs of our services, the misinterpretation, unbalance, unfair, well, legal uncertainty. I'm going to leave it there. You know, but I want to mention something. It has been said already that the Italian industry of consulting engineers is really very atomized. You have many companies, and most of them small, if you compare them with other European countries. To go international, you need to have certain size. It's not only to cover the overheads that this requires, it's also to have enough strength to face all those challenges that you are going to face if you go international. To grow and to be an international firm, it is something that is essential and has been said. You need a logic, you need a fair, you need a suitable environment in your own country. I was trying to say it in Italian, but I mean with leva, you may translate that into English, and with punto de apoyo, is how we would say in Spanish. You will be able to do anything, but your punto de apoyo should be your own market. You need strong roots in Italy to go international. And to have strong roots in Italy to go international, you need a reasonable market in your own country. Well, just to finalize, we are going to present you our conference in Dubai in September. So Enrico, well, actually, we were requested to be both presenting this, so we decided, okay, you say this, I say that. Okay, I can do it myself if you want. Okay, I'll present. Okay, well, every year, as you know, FIDIC is organizing a World Infrastructure Conference. This year is going to be in Dubai in September. We are going to talk about the global market, financing the future. We are going to present there is a very interesting session on benchmarking, on consulting engineering firms around the world, and about mergers and acquisitions, and it's going to be very interesting. Actually, the business program is very, very attractive, especially for CEOs and presidents of consulting engineering firms. Of course, we are going to present what is the market in Dubai. It is going to be the first FIDIC International Conference in the Middle East. As I said, has been designed thinking in the managers of our companies, and it is quite short because it's going to be 2 days only. You could come a little earlier and then be present during the presentations about our committees, and you could extend a little bit, but we will concentrate everything within 2 days. It will be the second year that FIDIC is going to give the international awards every year. Well, every year since last year, we are awarding consulting engineering firms based on projects that have been developed in the latest years, and we are giving an award recognizing the work and the scope of work of our industry. They will be given during the gala dinner, and well, it is also going to be the first time that, I mean, we want to have all our all the members of our associations will have a special price. So there is a discount for anybody that is coming from a firm that is either member of OICE or member or in ARSRI. Any member of FIDIC will have a special discount. Well, this is in September, and we hope you will be able to come and stay with us and share your experience, knowledge, and get as much advantage as possible. So, grazie mille and arrivederci.
Grazie all'ingegner Bueno.